1, 2. Test. Microphone. Camera. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Politics, Culture, and some other shit. To the podcast. And all that. Let me just. Yeah, there we go. Hope you're well. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. I've been very busy. I had a wonderful time at the Flatley. I spent 4 days out of the 7, and I think it's took me about a month to get over it. The rest of the month to get over it. It was wonderful. If you get a chance to go to the Flatley next year, I highly recommend that you do. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. We had a great time. So many tunes, so many pints. Oh, it was just fantastic. Loved it. It's great to see. Biggest flat ever in ever, and it was in Belfast, and it was a huge success by all accounts. And I don't think there was a lot of trouble or anything like that. It was brilliant. And basically, I've been very busy with many other things. So this is really the first chance I've had to get out here to the studio to do a wee pod. But so we're going to talk about. I want to read you this article about why young people are turning to communism, socialism, things like that. We're going to read this article for you. It's absolutely staggering. The US is basically in the process of stealing the gold reserves of Venezuela, which is it's actually, it has to be seen to be believed. It's staggering. But this is it seems to me that the American administration is resorting basically to piracy. Well, you could argue that it always was. All these Western capitalist governments, capitalism depends on piracy, it depends on theft, and then to feed itself. So yeah, but it's the blatantness of what's going on at the minute. It's hard to believe. And what else? There was right up to current today. I just read an article there. I'm going to share it with you. That the Drumcree Orange Men, the ruling that stopped them from going down the Gavahi Road, which caused all that trouble all those years ago, it's been overturned. But there's a little twist in the tail of that as well, so it's not just as obvious as you might think. And we'll talk about AI and the shit that's going on with that. And then here, up on screen there, I'm going to read this out for you. It's the Bonneville's upcoming gigs. So we've got a gig this Friday in Fajo's in Lurgan, up town here. It's a charity gig for the hospice. It's on all day. Bands and performers on all day, and it's always a great success. I think this is the second time we've played it, but it's been going for a few years now. We're on about 9 o'clock, something like that, on Saturday night, so you should come to that. That's this Saturday. Next Friday the 4th of September is Bad Shirt Friday, a gig at the First Presbyterian Church in Belfast for another charity show for muscular dystrophy. There's a gig. I missed a gig on the poster. God damn it, we'll have to change the poster. We're playing the Marine Bar in Whitehead. What's the date of that? Oh, I missed it, I forgot. I'll have to add it. And then the next, I'm playing a solo gig, 10th of October at Chackyole, supporting Tiabo. Of course, I spelled their name wrong on the poster, so I'm going to have to change all that. Holy fuck, you're an idiot, McGibbon. 28th of October, supporting the Darts in Lost Lane in Dublin. 5th of November, supporting Ricky Warwick in Limerick, Dolans. And 6th of November, supporting Ricky Warwick again in Dublin at Grand Social. So yeah, fuck that poster up, I'm going to have to do that all again now, god damn it. Anyway, to the show. So, what are we talking about? Why are young people being drawn to, well, according to the Google AI here, which I didn't ask for, but I'm going to put it up anyway. I've got no fucking choice. You Google something nowadays and you just go straight into an AI overview. So, why are young people being drawn to communism, or as they rephrased it, alternative economic ideas? So, point number one, economic hardship. Many Gen Z and millennials face high housing costs, heavy student debt, stagnant wages, and growing wealth gaps. Point two, disillusionment with capitalism. Younger generations feel that traditional market systems have failed to provide them with financial security or a stable stake in society. Straight away, you're just getting red flags all over the place. The language, the way they're used, the choice of words, and the way they're the phrasing and the sentence structure. Like, many Gen Z and millennials face housing costs, heavy student debt, stagnant wages, and growing wealth gaps. So that's point one. Then point two, disillusionment with capitalism. Younger generations feel. Point one says they are experiencing this. Point two says they feel. Well, that just creates doubt, right? And you could call it a wee snowflake and things like that. Feel that traditional market systems. What does that mean, traditional market system? It's an economic system. It's not a religion. It's not doctrine handed down by God. It's an economic system, and it's failing. So what do? You change it. Now that's considered radical. Traditional market systems have failed to provide them with financial security or a stable stake in society. They feel this. No, that's a fact. Desire for equality. Sympathy for these ideologies is often driven by a focus on core ideals like universal healthcare, affordable housing, and social fairness, rather than a desire for authoritarian government. Well, that's fair enough. I don't disagree with a word of that. Nuance and definitions. But then the thing is, the even the way that's phrased, there's the implication that if you choose communism or socialism, you automatically get the authoritarian government. Now, how can anyone living in United States or most of the countries in Western Europe not consider the governments to be authoritarian? Explain that to me. America seems to me to be the most overpoliced country in the world. The amount of three-letter agencies they have is staggering. I can't even begin to list them all. The UK, you're not allowed to fucking say you support Palestine action. You're not allowed to say that you're against the genocide if you mention Israel. Or you can't say you're pro-Palestine. You'll be arrested. The people aren't being convicted if they get in front of a jury. But that's the next phase. They're ruling out. They're getting rid of the jury trials, in order to get the conviction. So, back to this AI overview on Google. Nuance and definitions. Opinions on Reddit show mixed views, with many users noting that young people use terms like communist or socialist are often advocating for stronger social safety nets and democratic socialism rather than Soviet-style state control. No one's claiming that they want Soviet-style state control, but you're getting it under capitalism. And we know that capitalism combined with corporatism leads us to fascism. That's where we're headed. Criticisms and concerns. Lack of historical context. Critics point out that support for these systems often overlooks the severe political repression and economic failures of historical communist regimes. Broader discontent. Some analysts suggest that the interest in fringe political systems, again, whether extreme left or extreme right, stems from a general frustration with the mainstream political and economic institutions. Now, that's fucking obvious, it's clear. So, here's an article from The Communist. Capitalism has nothing to offer young people. The fight for a communist future. Now, this is written in a response to an article by a fucking establishment gobshite called Sebastian Payne, who wrote an article in the Times, and it was paywalled, and I read it, and I went, I'm not reading that out. It's just a load of... He's terrible. And I went, I'm not going to read that. I don't care. But I found this article in response to it. So here's this article. In despair, young people are turning towards communism. So laments columnist Seb Payne, writing in the Sunday Times. This establishment hack, and for that is what he is, that without a viable capitalist alternative, such ideas will enjoy a moment in the sun. But it's capitalism, not communism, that has already had its moment in the sun. Now it is shriveled into dust, having burnt through the last of its historical legitimacy. Payne dutifully repeats the tired old line that capitalism and democracy are the best, tried and tested way to have a prosperous nation. But where is this prosperous nation? Members of Gen Z are certainly not listed among its citizens. And where too is this fabled democracy? There was little to be found on Parliament Square earlier this month when over 500 protesters were arrested on charges of supporting terrorism, all for opposing our government's genocidal actions. In the real world, Britain is neither democratic nor prosperous. Look outside your window, malnourished children, collapsing public services, shit in the rivers and waterways. This is Britain in 2025, 26. These are the fruits of their best system. Scroll through TikTok and you get a sense of the despair. There's a couple of videos there. The Gen Z loneliness epidemic. How to survive recession. Advice for millennials to Gen Z. After months of rejection, I paid a witch to help me get a job interview. Is it any wonder the mystical thinking is rising? In 2019, the share of young adults who believe in God has jumped from 22% to 45%. I personally don't see anything wrong with that. But when decent jobs, but I think the point is, in desperation, you will start to think mystically, and you will. It is a thing that happens. It's normal. When decent jobs, housing, and a livable planet seem as fantastical as miracles, witchcraft, and mysticism can look more reliable than the job market. The children of the 2008 crash are now 17, standing on the cusp of adulthood. They have never experienced rising living standards, only austerity, precarious work, and the climate crisis. Those born just before them are coming of age radicalised, having seen through years of empty promises. Today, more than 630,000 graduates, this is in the UK, once told that education was their guaranteed ticket to success, are claiming universal credit. Among those aged 16 to 24, 742,000 are on universal credit, while 987,000 are categorised as not in work, education or training. A generation of young people is being pushed through the humiliating ritual of the dole queue, trapped in exploitative or soul-crushing low-skilled work. The British ruling class has reared lost generations. The government even suggested forcing 642,000 unemployed 16 to 24-year-olds into national service, presumably to fight in field wars in Ukraine and prepare for more disastrous conflicts in the Middle East. Now, that's the thing that we must... Let me see, where is the... I want to find this little video. So the thing that we need to understand, if you don't understand what the difference between capitalism and so, this is basic shit, right? So capitalism depends on eating. Marx says capitalism will eventually eat itself, but it eats everything like a swarm. It's been described as like a swarm of locusts. It just devours, right? And Marx and Engels predicted the end of capitalism after about 50 years. So they came around in the middle of the 1800s, and they had predicted by the 1900s it would be over. But it didn't. It didn't collapse. Those systems did. That system didn't collapse. But the reason that it didn't collapse was because those countries became empires. So all those European countries that went out and did what the Brits were doing, and they got their own empire, and they carved out a bit of Africa or a bit of South America or wherever, and basically stole all around them. And those countries are still suffering to this day. Ireland was in a very similar position to not very long ago. So that's why it has survived. Just trying to find a wee video that I saved. Oh yeah, I've got it here. I think I've got it here. So that's why it did survive. Ah God, where is it? That's why it has survived till this day. But it's struggling now because more and more power and money has been funneled through the monopolisation of absolutely everything. With deregulation, more and more power and money gets funneled into the hands of fewer and fewer and fewer. And we can see this with the rise of these tech oligarchs. And the ultimate end goal of that is slavery for the majority of people. For us, it's probably digital serfdom, where we become the rentiers of everything. And you can see it with this new generation. That's what they are. They rent everything. They rent their houses, they rent their cars, they rent their software, they rent their music, they rent their videos. They rent everything's rented. That you will own nothing and be happy. That Klaus Schwab fucking Bond villain statement. That whenever you see him, you just can't believe that they allow him to speak on their behalf. But let me just see if I can find. There's a little there's two little videos I want to show you. Actually, there's three. So, where is this going? Oh, history. No, all my saved videos have just disappeared. This is an odd thing. Every time you come to a fucking piece of software, it's all fucking changed. You can't, and you're like, I can't be bothered with this anymore. But this is it. So I'm going to show you this one. I'm going to stop this. So this guy is at one of these far-right rallies that sprung up not so long ago. So check this out. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it kind of explains a lot without getting into economic wonkery. But you can have a bit of a think about this one. It's all connected, really. So I'm going to play another one in a second.
The war for the British Empire. I witnessed my friends die for this land.
Oh, you fought for this land, did you? This is the land you fought for. But you didn't fight in this land. You fought for this land in somebody else's land. Specifically, the land of Afghanistan. So in 2012, you and your buddies left your land and went to somebody else's land in order to fight for your land on their land and, heroically defend your freedom. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit foggy on exactly how your freedom got all the way to Afghanistan in 2012 and just what the fuck it was doing there. But I'm sure it was an altogether heroic and patriotic and glorious and necessary invasion. Liberation. And now, obviously, you're upset that the land that you fought for is being invaded by an outside presence. Because that would be terrible, right? To have your land invaded by an outside presence. I wonder where this outside intrusion is coming from. Oh, look at that. The number one place seems to be from Afghanistan. What a completely unrelated coincidence. How ungrateful they must be to come to your land after you helped liberate their land from the oppressive Taliban regime. Incidentally, I wonder who's in power in Afghanistan right now. Oh, look at that, it's the oppressive Taliban regime. So they had like an oppressive, theocratic, totalitarian regime, followed by decades of foreign invasion and war and bloodshed and chaos and murder and foreign military occupation, which then abruptly left an extreme power vacuum behind it, which was immediately filled by the exact same theocratic, oppressive, totalitarian regime. That sounds like a lot of fun. I wonder why people are not altogether that eager to live their lives and raise their families in Afghanistan right now. It's probably because they've got some irrational religious ideological desire to attack and eradicate ethnic white purity. That seems like the most rational conclusion. This guy is like a poster child for why, if you're going to involve yourself in political discourse, you have to have the balls to have the whole conversation. You don't get to just...
This is the point. You have to have the balls to have the whole conversation. This is the fucking point. And this is the point I always make when I'm having discussions, and I do have disagreements and discussions with people regularly, but by the way, about immigration. I always reference this. Somebody that lived in Syria, a Mediterranean paradise, even under previous rulers, do not want to come and live in a rainy fucking Portadown and work in a chicken factory and live in a little flat. They come from a 3,000-year-old civilization with its own music, culture, language, cuisine, everything. And I'm sure life's not perfect there, and it wasn't perfect there before. It's certainly not perfect there now. Since their president is one of the founders of ISIS. So there you go. You have to take it all in context. Why are they coming here? Because of what he's just said. But why did they go there? Why did we, the West, go there? To steal their shit. And also to funnel money into the military-industrial complex. I'll show you that in a second.
Start the conversation at the point where an issue became an inconvenience to you personally. You're hyper-fixated on a perceived negative impact of a foreign presence in your country, whilst simultaneously hyper-ignorant about the negative impact of your foreign presence in their country, and in complete denial about the obvious correlation between the two. If you want to address an issue seriously, you have to also address the underlying causes, right? Not just the bit you don't like. Not just the point where it became an inconvenience to you personally.
I was in Afghanistan in 2012.
Right? So, this is the little video I want to show you from Julian Assange explaining why that dude was sent to Afghanistan.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war. Because
right.
The goal is not.
So you got that? The goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war. They don't care. America is currently, has been most of this year, doing unforgivable war crimes against Iran. America doesn't want to win this. America wants this to be ongoing. They want this to be the next thing. They're always teeing up the next thing. In order to do what? Funnel money up into capitalists' bank accounts. That's it. That's what this is all about. And the more and more money that gets funneled upwards and not outwards means there's less and less generationally until we get to the point that our young people are sitting at right now where they can't fucking afford anything. And all these ugly, lazy tropes that people have been thrown around for years. Oh, save your money, there you are with your fucking avocado toast and your £5 coffees. Because that's the reason you can't buy a house, because it costs £5 to buy a house, and it's you can trade houses for avocado toast. This is the system, and that's what the previous guy said. If you're going to have the conversation, at least be honest to have the whole conversation and keep it in context. And don't just start it at the point where it becomes personally inconvenient to you. Right? And this is all connected. And this is the future that the Gen Zs and the millennials, and I hate using those generational labels. I do think they were sent from on high to divide us around the dinner table. I have a theory about that. But for the purposes of this conversation, I will adhere to those because it's convenient and we know what I'm talking about. But this is the world that these kids are facing. They're looking at it and they're going, what the fuck am I? You want me to do what? You want me to go and fight? You want me to go and do 3 gig jobs for the rest of my life? When you, the older people, including people my age, could have went into a high street bank with 3 months pay slips and got a mortgage. Within my lifetime, that was possible. You could do that. It certainly was definitely possible within my father and mother's time when they were trying to get a foothold on their lives, even in the Troubles. And then you blame them because they look to alternative economic systems. It's not an alternative economic system, it's a legitimate economic system that stops the worst excesses of the capitalist economic system that we live under now. It stops those. And it doesn't necessarily have to lead to authoritarianism, as is alleged in the AI overview from Google. This is a part of the propaganda. So, the propaganda is this. Have you heard of the Victims of Communism Museum? There's a load of them. They're quite common in the West. A few in America. This guy is a Canadian communist, and he's going to talk about the vandalization of one of them, and he's going to give you an insight into
about this. Someone has vandalized the Victims of Communism Museum in Washington, D.C. Over the communism, they have capitalism dripping blood red, right above 100 million people dead. Now, Canada has its own Victims of Communism memorial in Ottawa. In fact, they have these all over the Western world. Now, one little problem here. Who were these victims? At the memorial in Ottawa, when they first came out with this, they had a list of victims that they were going to put on the memorial. It turned out they were mostly Nazis. So what is this memorial actually about? The ruling class is terrified. The capitalist system is declining. This group of billionaire imperialists that control everything are dragging us into the abyss. So they have to convince us that there is no alternative to this system. Don't try communism. They particularly have to convince us that we need to let them own everything, own the entire economy, and run it for their own personal profit. If we try to do anything about it, that's communism. And untold horrors will be unleashed. So I'm here to tell you, they are lying to you. This system, the capitalist system, is piling up bodies by the thousands every day. It seeks profit over all else, and it is driving driving us into a dead end, destroying life, leading us to wars and environmental destruction, and everyone knows that. But another world is possible, but only if we take power and control out of the hands of this tiny minority of evil bastards. These victims of communism memorials were created by the conservatives, funded by the liberals, and supported by every other major party. We need our own.
So, there you go. That's the thing. And so, young people are turning to alternative, their word not mine, economic systems. Well, I would say that considering how the current economic system is letting them down, they would be foolish to not look to alternative economic systems. Would they not? Is that not a logical thing to say? They're not stupid. They're no dumber than I am, than you are. You would look for something else. You would go, this isn't working for me. We need to do something here. And it's not working for them en masse. And there is a body of work already laid out for them, from Marx onwards, Gramsci and Engels and Rosa Luxemburg and everybody else. Connolly, my own personal hero, that presents potential solutions. And all the things that you hear presented against it from the likes of Sebastian Payne is propaganda at this point, because it's not working. That's not an opinion. It's not working. Even those guys, when they write their propaganda, acknowledge that it's not working. They all say it, because they said it in the AI overview. The system isn't working for the young people, so they're looking to alternative systems. But why is it not working? Because it can't work. Capitalism can't work. This is the point. It will eat itself. It will fail. Eventually it will fail. And we are going to be reduced to serfdom if we're lucky, and slavery if we're not. Maybe not me personally. I'll probably be dead. But the generation after this one, definitely. So, and then, so how do I I'm trying to segue into something for you. I don't know how to do it without being too abrupt. But one of the problems that we have on the left is there's too much infighting. We're known for it. We're famous for it. But we are also, I would say, uniquely infiltrated at all levels, in parties and groups and community organisations. We're completely infiltrated. And we start, Marx called it the narcissism of petty differences. I believe this certain little thing that Trotsky did this and Stalin did that and Marx said this or Engels said the other, and then we fall out and we split our own fucking, we go and make our own little fucking, like that. The Life of Brian, that skit, that bit from The Life of Brian, you know, the People's Revolutionary Party of Judea and the way the Judean People's Revolutionary Front, fuck off, you know, that's what we do on the left, right? I don't do that. I refuse. I don't care. If you're a socialist, if you're a communist, if you're understanding of the economic arguments, you'll do me most of the time. Because if I'm going to fight and argue with anybody, it's going to be a capitalist. It's not going to be a communist. So here's one, just for a bit of crack. So this guy here, he is, and it's one of the, I love this. I'm going to finish this bit with this little video. One of the things we always, you have a laugh about when you're talking about with communists and when you're talking with capitalists about these things, and they're, Star Wars is often brought up. And you go, that sounds quite juvenile. Not really, because everybody, no matter who they are, they all think that they're the good guys. So the capitalists think that they're they would be Luke Skywalker, and you're kind of going, you get that you're the Empire, you're Darth Vader. The rebels are the socialists and the communists. They're the ones that are fighting. So this guy puts this little video together. It's quite funny. I enjoyed it. I hope you do too. So let's just check this out together. We'll watch this together.
Hey, what's up, man? I hear you're a socialist now. Yeah, man, I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of the Death Star. We're working to start a socialist rebel alliance here on the Death Star.
And I should put this in context. This is with the rise of the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA. This is him putting a bit of meta commentary on what's going on there. So these socialists, so-called socialists, are operating inside the Democratic Party, who are not a left party at all. They're a right-wing party, but they're calling themselves socialists. So this is what he's getting at. You call yourself a socialist, but you're operating inside the Dem right-wing party. So he's talking to a stormtrooper. For those of you that aren't watching this, you can see it on YouTube or on Patreon. So the person that he's talking to is a stormtrooper. And let's go.
Hey, what's up, man? I hear you're a socialist now. Yeah, man, I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of the Death Star. We're working to start a socialist rebel alliance here on the Death Star. We're trying to get a national health care system, free public college, living wages, and affordable housing right here on the Death Star. Isn't that amazing? Oh, that's awesome. So I assume you're going to be standing in solidarity with actually existing socialist rebel alliance planets like Chandrila and Corellia that the Empire has historically been opposed to. They're fucking communists, dude. I'm not a communist. I'm a socialist. There's a difference. And how do you feel about the Death Star blowing up Rebel Alliance planets like Alderaan for getting in the way of its conquest of the galaxy? Well, the government of the Empire is evil, and they overstep their bounds, and we need to change the government. But also, the government of Alderaan was just as bad, and they were exploiting their people, and something had to be done. It shouldn't have been blowing up the entire planet, but we couldn't let that keep happening. They were just socialists. It was a Rebel Alliance planet. That's why the Empire blew it up. Don't you think it's possible the Empire's lying to you about what they were doing on Alderaan? Well, they lie about everything else. Why would they need to lie about that too? Of course they were being exploited on Alderaan. All right, and how do you feel about the non-aligned government of the desert planet Reloth recently standing up to the Empire?
This is a stand-in for Iran. For those of you that aren't watching this, Iran, China, and Cuba, all these countries that he's talking about is in Star Wars, he's referencing them as real countries on Earth.
After forcing them off their planet after enslaving them about 50 years ago. The level of political freedom they have on Reloth is just unconscionable. I condemn the government of Reloth. So without standing aligned with actually existing socialist planets, you're just doing liberalism with national healthcare system and affordable housing.
Yep.
You'll continue exploiting the galaxy for resources to maintain your standard of living here on the Death Star. And it seems that you want to enforce your morals from here on the Death Star on the rest of the galaxy. That doesn't sound very socialist to me, and it sounds like you're standing in opposition to the actual Rebel Alliance. And I don't know, man. It sounds like the Empire is evil, not just the current Imperial government. And you're literally an Imperial stormtrooper.
Boom. I like that because it puts it. People of my generation that grew up on Star Wars, that's a nice little pin in it. So there we go. Yeah, young people are turning to communism, and you couldn't fucking blame them, could you? Right, so here's one. I'm going to read this for you. It's real quick. This is about Michael Flatley, the Lord of the Dance guy. Now, Michael Flatley he's a weird character for me. He's done a thing for Irish culture, and I don't want to deny him his place, because when he did that, the Lord of the Dance stuff, it was massive. It was fucking huge. But it was taking a version of Irish culture, Americanizing it, and then selling it back to the rest of the world and selling it back to us. But I remember seeing it at the time. I watched that Eurovision live at the time when they did when Ireland was hosting the Eurovision, and it was a big thing. And the cultural piece that the host country gets to put together. They did this. They did it, and then they did it. Was it that year, or the year before? Maybe they did it with Hot House Flowers, "Don't Go," which was great as well. That was a brilliant song, and seeing it in that context was fantastic. And you get to showcase, your country and all the rest of it. So Michael Flatley has been impactful, I think, probably for the better, certainly around that time. Ireland, if you weren't around at the time, you probably were. You've got to remember the Ireland, we had a lack of confidence and this sort of stuff, and then this brash American fellow comes on and does this, and it worked. It really did work. Now, he's done it to death and all that there. But he's significant. I'm not saying he's good or bad, because you might like him, I whatever. But there's no doubt about it. I mean, the ego in this one is strong. He made a film a few years ago, and I watched it, and it was fucking hilarious. He basically cast, and he funded it all himself, and I did a review of it a few years back when it came out. It was hard to get. It didn't actually get a good proper release because it was so bad. Nobody wanted it. And he sort of cast himself as like a James Bond type. It was very, very poor. But it was one of those ones that was so bad it was funny. But here's this article anyway. Michael Flatley honours Louis Mountbatten with a flute performance near the scene of the IRA attack. "We just won't forget," says son of former Mullaghmore housekeeper on the 47th anniversary of the IRA assassination. I mean, this blew my mind. I couldn't believe this was a fucker. When I read it, I was like, what the fuck am I reading here? Is this for real? And it is. This is like current. What's the date on this? Monday the 24th of August, so yesterday. I read this last night. So let me read this to you. Lord of the Dance star Michael Flatley flew into Sligo on Monday to play the flute at the former summer home of Lord Louis Mountbatten at Mullaghmore. The musical tribute marked the 47th anniversary of his assassination by the IRA. Flatley was joined in the drawing room of the classy Bond Castle by musicians from Sligo and Leitrim, where he played a variety of jigs and reels on his 1836 Caucasus instrument. "It's magnificent," he told the Irish Times about the visit. "We keep trying to fix it a date to get here. Our schedules are crazy, but I was determined. I've never seen such a picturesque setting in my life. I'd never seen such natural beauty. The one-time Riverdance star flew in by helicopter and landed in the grounds of the castle. He then had a private lunch with custodian Caroline Devine and friends, and when asked about the significance of the anniversary, Flatley said, "Caroline and I were discussing it, and I think it's appropriate time for me to come and see her and spend time with her. It's very important. I'm non-political. My whole life was spreading love and joy and art. That's what I do." What a load of shite. You can't do that. You can't use "I'm not political" ignorance as an excuse for doing stupid shit like this. For those of you that don't know, Lord Louis Mountbatten, favoured uncle of the current King of England, Charles, famously. Charles Mountbatten being his is one of his many names, isn't it? Now, I'm going to be very careful in how I phrase this, but there's been serious links and if you search for this, it'll be called conspiracy theory. So I'm going to, in the interest of staying safe, I'm going to use those phrases. But the man was heavily, it's just, in Irish Republican circles, in Irish nationalist circles, he's considered to be a paedophile. And he was linked with the Kincora scandal. And we know, I read another article about this a couple of years ago. I wish I could find it, but I can't. Where a guy released a book about the whole thing. And the Kincora boys' home was used as a honey trap for these types. If you understand how the establishment works, you will not be allowed to rise within it, I believe, unless they have compromise on you. And you can see that with the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. If they have this compromise on you, you're one of them now. And they'll always be able to have that over you. We know that the Epstein files aren't being released because the people that are in charge of releasing them are probably in them. And Mountbatten is certainly reputationally linked to that world and to that. Plus the fact he was a British lord. So there's that. And I'm not talking, and I'm saying that as in, why do you go and honour that? Why do you honour him? Even if you take the first thing with with him being a PDF, if you take that and say, right, well, that's, if you dismiss that and go, well, I don't believe that, and I would understand why you would, because it is, it's just allegations and rumours at the minute, really. But there are, it's not actually, but there's more to it than that. But if you dismiss that, he's a member of the British establishment. And then you're going to go and play Irish tunes and jigs and reels in tribute to the man. And then go, oh, well, I'm non-political. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. I'm sorry, that's an ignorance. Michael Flatley's clearly not fucking stupid. So he came to pay tribute to the Mountbatten family on the tragedy, said Devine of Flatley's visit. The reason he is here is because they, the Mountbattens, had Keeleys here every summer. They never blamed the Irish people for what happened to them. Oh, isn't that nice? And they want what they did here to continue. And we thought, who could do it better this week than Michael Flatley? Flautist Michael Hurley performed the Bells of Tipperary with Flatley after a gap of nearly 50 years. Both men competed against each other as teenagers in the All-Ireland Fleadh in Listowel, which Flatley won. It was very nice to play with him again. A great tribute, Hurley said. The other musicians included former RTE cameraman John McMorrow on banjo and Pat McCurran on accordion. I don't like to say that, Hurley, because my mother's name was Hurley, and it saddens me. Flatley took two sons of the former head housekeeper, Pat and John Barry, up in the helicopter to tour the Mullimore Bay and view the scene of the explosion. We hovered over where the bomb took place and pointed out to him exactly where it happened, etc., etc., etc. When Mountbatten came here every August for 34 years, he always had an Irish night in the front hall. Isn't that awful nice? And he would invite local musicians, neighbours and friends, and Irish music was played. Everyone took part. The Mountbatten family and Lord Louis himself liked to sit down, tap his foot to the sound of the music, and he would dance an old-time waltz. I don't give a fuck. I would have attended those parties as a child, and I remember very clearly Mountbatten loved Irish culture. 47th anniversary is coming up, etc., etc. I find that very distasteful. As an Irish Republican, an Irish nationalist, I find that very distasteful. I don't like this. Mountbatten was an active member of the British establishment. And the British establishment were doing monstrous, blood-curdling things to a certain segment of the Irish population. And he paid a price for it. I don't like this. I don't think that he should do this. This to me is disgusting. And it's such West Brit. It's making me sick. Anyway. On to the next one. This is interesting as well. So, a High Court judge, this is today, from the newsletter. This is Tuesday, published the 25th of August, which is today. There's more on this on the BBC website, apparently. But a ban on Portadown Orangemen making a return parade from a church service at Drumcree has been quashed after a landmark legal victory against the Parades Commission. A fresh application will now be submitted for the walk down for Gavahi Road after the previous decision by the Quango was ruled unlawful. The Quango. The newsletter is obviously very highly biased in this. A High Court judge said he had no hesitation in making the ruling and that to ensure public confidence in the event of shortcuts on a sloppy procedures, it was important that details were placed in public domain. For those of you that don't have any memory of this, of which I'm sure there aren't too many, this situation was threatening to bring down the peace process and bring this country back to a civil war. So the fact that a government Quango, as is being referred to, ruled that it was illegal because it didn't want it to happen, in the interest of public safety, I assume, seemed to me to be very sensible. Plus, these people didn't want these other people marching through their communities in a triumphalist fashion as is the orange, the raison d'etre of the Orange Order. The Commission conceded the challenge brought by a legal team. Now, this is a bit that's really fucking sad. The legal team, including Jamie Bryson. Jamie finally gets a win. God love him. Loves a trier, doesn't he? The Parades Commission has conceded illegality in its decision making, and such was the strength of the evidence advanced, a full contested court hearing was not even required. After 28 years, the significance of that simply cannot be overstated. So, that's interesting. I don't know where this is going to go, but people are suggesting on Reddit, given how this piece is light on a specific nature of the problem with the decision-making process, I'm going to bet pretty heavily that it's some procedural wonkery, and then the Commission will correct it and ban the parade again. Then someone replies to that and says there's more detail on the decision on the BBC piece. This piece is so scanty on it as to be deliberately misleading. Principally, the Parades Commission themselves asked for the decision to be quashed. They had requested direct talks with residents from the Orange Order before any change in policy would be considered. They have decided this went against their own procedures. Nothing illegal seems to have occurred, at least in my reading. So, the parade hasn't actually been permitted, merely given leave to make a fresh application. There's no indication that this would meet with success. So, it's interesting. If nothing else, it's interesting. And we will see where this is going to go, if anywhere. Who knows? But I'm sure Jamie is going to be having a lemonade shandy or two tonight to celebrate his roaring success. For that's what this is. Don't you know? Right, so check this one out. This is nuts. So before I get into the article, let's have a little gander at this. So this is AI overview. Under the administration of Donald Trump, American piracy has shifted from a critical rhetorical label used by foreign adversaries into an explicit self-professed description of aggressive, profit-driven US maritime interdictions and ship seizures in the Caribbean and Persian Gulf, Critics and international legal experts have condemned these actions as international piracy, for that is what they are. Examples upcoming. And while President Trump himself famously embraced the term mid-26, boasting that the US's military is sort of like pirates because they're taking over foreign cargo and oil in what he called a very profitable business. So, Persian Gulf and Iranian blockades. Following the breakdown of peace talks and the onset of the US-Israeli air campaign against Iran, the US imposed strict naval blockade on Iranian ports on the 13th of April 2026. This sparked direct confrontation in vital international waterways. Tactics on the high seas. US forces have routinely intercepted Iranian-linked vessels, disabled them by firing into their engine rooms and bombed them via helicopter. The pirate remark at the May 26 rally in West Palm Beach, Florida, Trump openly bragged about seizing the Iranian cargo ship Tuska and its oil. He stated to a cheering crowd, "We took over the ship, we took the cargo, we took over its oil. It's a very profitable business. We're sort of like pirates, but we're not playing games." The impact on global shipping. By enforcing a total ban on ships passing through or paying tolls to Iran, the US military effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz, reducing maritime traffic from 3,000 ships per month to virtually zero. Operation Southern Spear and Venezuela. Prior to the escalation of the Middle East, the Trump administration leveraged a similar maritime strategy in the Americas under Operation Southern Spear, an aggressive interdiction campaign launched in late 25. In December 25, the US forces executed high-profile operations to seize sanctioned dark fleet, in air quotes, that's what they call them, dark fleet, oil tankers off the coast of Venezuela. The Venezuelan government fiercely denounced these actions as barefaced robbery and an act of international piracy meant to steal their natural resources, for that is what they were. The Pentagon expanded its operations from the Caribbean to Ecuador's Pacific coast, conducting dozens of missile and air strikes on vessels suspected of drug smuggling, resulting in over 200 casualties. Suspected the claimed drug smuggling, none of this was ever proven. Excuse me. The administration's embrace of maritime asset seizure also extended to Capitol Hill, introducing a radical shift in how the US approaches non-state actors. In the late December 25, Republican lawmakers led by Senator Mike Lee introduced Cartel Mark and Reprisal Reauthorization Act. The bill proposes to formally revive the centuries-old practice in issuing letters of marque. This, I swear to God, I'm not fucking making this up. Which would legally authorize private American citizens and businesses to act as modern-day privateers, or, this is me now, what we refer to them, in correct historical context, pirates. Privateers, they were pirates, that's what they were called, pirates. Under this framework, private operators would be sanctioned by the US government to weaponize vessels, hunt down cartel-linked ships, and seize their assets for profit, essentially state-sanctioned piracy. Letters of marque. So your government, your queen, whatever, it would give you a letter of marque. So if you're English, you can go and raid French ships and Spanish ships. And that's your permission to do it. So then the English authorities wouldn't interfere with you, and vice versa. And these people became known as pirates. Francis Drake, all them boys, they're all pirates. Right? So check this out. This is the latest. So this is August 27th, last week. Venezuela's UK-held gold to be released to foreign control. To US control. Caracas. The Venezuelan sovereign gold reserves held by the Bank of England are set to be released and placed under US Treasury Department management. Now make no mistake, this means they're stealing it. Following the recent US-backed talks between the acting Delcy Rodriguez government and the representatives of the defunct opposition majority parliament elected in 2015, the two sides agreed to work together to secure the unfreezing of 31 tons of gold worth around $4.3 billion at current prices to support post-earthquake recovery efforts Ramon Lopez, a member of the opposition delegation, disclosed that the resources would be deposited in a US Treasury bank account and subjected to external audits. The gold will be released with appropriate planning and control mechanisms. He said in an interview, the gold will be deposited in the US Treasury account and audited by international firms. None of this means anything. It sounds like security, but it's not. What will happen with this gold is it will be funneled away. It will be filtered through NGOs who will steal it. Basically, they'll just fucking steal it. That's what this is. Lopez added that the resources will be used on housing and healthcare projects as well as support for families who lost their homes in the June 24th double earthquake. The expenses will be permanently audited. The former deputy permanently audited. The Americans can't pass an audit. The Pentagon has never passed an audit. They can't explain where trillions of dollars are. The former deputy did not specify whether the gold would be transferred to the US or exchanged. The Rodriguez administration has not commented on the foreign custodianship of the country's reserves. The US endorsed dialogue, also saw the government and opposition agree to reform the Supreme Court and renew its justices. Appointing magistrates is a constitutional competency on the Venezuelan National Assembly anyway. The gold reserves are the latest Venezuelan state assets to be taken over by Washington since the January 3rd US attack and the kidnapping of Maduro. The Trump administration has seized control of the Venezuelan export revenues, particularly from crude sales, while the disbursement timings and amounts left at the discretion of the White House officials. This gold will also be used, so they'll exchange it for American dollars. What that does is it underpins the American bond market. Right? Which is what America relies upon for the petrodollar, which floats its entire economy. Meanwhile, the Trump administration has maintained economic sanctions against Venezuela, issuing only waivers, allowing select Western corporations to strike energy agreements with Caracas, following pro-business legislative overhauls. Apart from the UK-held gold reserves, Venezuelan officials have also called for the release of their other frozen assets, including $4.5 billion in IMF special drawing rights and multiple US and Europe-based bank accounts belonging to state institutions. The 2015 opposition-controlled parliament has administered billions of dollars worth of Venezuelan state assets abroad, despite its term expiring in January 21. Up until March 26, Washington reorganized the defunct opposition-led legislature, sure, that's a difficult word to say, as Caracas's legitimate authority. Opposition figures, including former self-proclaimed interim president Juan Guaido, remember him, were implicated in major corruption allegations related to the handling of the country's assets. So, boom. There we go. This is American piracy in full effect. They're just stealing it now. And this is what I'm fucking talking with you about. But the earlier article, the earlier piece about capitalism and theft, that it started out this way. It started out with letters of marque, with armies and ships and sailors and machines of war going to other countries to invade, colonize and steal. And this is literally what it's going back to. Now, it was always such, but it was done a bit more politer, which is why the likes of the Joe Bidens and the Kamala Harrises and people like that, they'd have been a bit politer about it. They'd have been, down with the gays and all the rest of it, and less obviously racist. But the bombs would have just had LGBTQ flags on them. Rainbow flags on them. We know this. That's all this is, which is literally going back to feudal times. And it was all predicted, and it's all obvious. And if you want to know why the young ones are turning to alternative, in air quotes, economic systems, it's because of shit like this. We'll talk about AI next. music and stuff. My wheelhouse. Stay with me. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so this is the last segment of the pod. Oh, well, I'm going to assemble it all. See what order it goes in, but this is the last section I'm recording. So I'm going to talk about AI in the arts. A couple of specific things that has happened. So I'm going to let this girl explain here on Instagram. And one of the things, she explains what's happening. I'll put her up now. So,
like, there's no way Christabel wants that.
This isn't even listed as AI. And if I go to
Holy sh!
Oh, hold on. Why did that not start at the start?
Like, there's no way.
Sorry, I'm going to have to reload that page. Oh no, that was it. It was okay. So stay with me. Let's get this. There.
Wants that.
this isn't even
It's
listed
my
as
Spotify
AI.
scam.
And if I go to
Holy shit!
last week, we posted a video uncovering a huge AI scam on Spotify where big name artists had AI slot music attached to their profiles. But the main thing that is new information, that it's not just Spotify. It is everywhere. It's Apple Music, it's Amazon Music, it's YouTube Music, it's Deezer. Initially, we were excited because people were mentioning Tidal and how there's better regulations. We're on Tidal, original motion picture soundtrack. We're gonna click on Kristen Bell.
All of hers.
And all of her
Great
AI music that's not even listed as AI. And so that was kind of a letdown. And then a lot of people said, I switched to Cobas. And
So what she's explaining there, this is, and I am absolutely convinced. I think that the whole AI music scandal thing is going to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we find out where a lot of this AI music in these streaming platforms is coming from. And whenever you look, whenever you look at economics and you look at employers and businesses, factories and industries, etc., their biggest single outlay is usually wages. Right? So that's the first thing they always look to cut. We know that. We live it all our lives. We're constantly having our cost of living going up and our wages being reduced, or certainly not keeping pace with the cost of living. So Spotify being not the only game in town, but certainly the biggest of all the streamers, by a long way, by the way. One of the ways that they can air quotes save money is by not paying out to musicians, right? And one of the ways that they can do that is by generating AI slop, inserting it into the profiles of established musicians, and then those plays get paid for their play. Now, if Spotify is the company that's generating those, then they don't have to pay themselves that, if you know what I mean. In fact, I go so far as to say they'll probably use it as some sort of a tax scam and a write-off, and there'll be a crooked accountancy going on there that'll help them make even more money than the initial payout. Now, I don't know this, but I suspect that that's what's happening. It's not just Spotify. People are doing it. Businesses and companies are setting up and they're doing this. They're generating AI crap and it's getting inserted into the... So you take a big band and... well, as she said, Kirsten Bell, the actress who sung on the Frozen soundtrack, I guess. I've never seen Frozen. I don't know anything about it. It's a Disney cartoon and very successful and all that. And you look under her profile and there's a lot of AI slop. Well, people are generating that and then that's being attached to her profile. So then if you press, as you do when you go onto your streaming, just play the artist, and then it'll just stream through a couple of songs, and the next thing you know, you're listening to a couple of AI ones on the bounce. I think that the companies themselves are doing this. I suspect that they are. I don't see why they would be ethically opposed to it. So I'm left with no other way of thinking that they'll do it. They're capable of it, so they'll do it. That's the way I see it, right? So this is what she's explaining, and she gets very emotional here.
It was freaking there too. Like, Jack Wolf's page is still full of AI trash. Mike Feist's page still full of AI trash. Like, but I'm just very surprised that no one's really been mentioning just how bad things have gotten across all platforms. The other thing that has been revealed, this is affecting hundreds more artists. If you find an account that has been affected, you can so easily find an account that's related, that's also been affected. Getting genre specific, musical theater, Broadway. Aaron Tveit profile is flooded with AI music. This is happening to K-pop. Shocking. This is happening in that genre. Christian music's also getting targeted. Punk fans, y'all are getting screwed too. I find it very, very, very difficult to believe that classical music listeners are okay with AI hacking favorite composers. This one particularly breaks my heart because to see jazz musicians and to see especially a lot of like deceased jazz musicians feels not only disrespectful but really despicable. I can't tell you how much we've lamented and just grieved over these musicians, especially who aren't here to defend themselves. The Spotify stuff alone was a lot, just us two. But realizing that this is covering all platforms, musicians of all genres, I am begging you for help. The artists that have been affected, as far as we know, they're not aware. We've relied a lot on the community to help us through this process. We do feel a sense of responsibility to try to let the artists know that this is happening to them. We're going to be sharing every single screenshot to get this word out. In some weird, kind of fucked up way, I take a lot of pride in that these corporations are spending billions and billions of dollars trying to recreate what I know that I can make.
You know, even just in these short few days, you start to realize what life would look like, and it's just a horrific dystopia. That on Saturday we were sitting in that cafe crying because AI covers are playing, and it's like, dude, I'm in the pod already. Suddenly the food is like tasteless.
The hardest part of the last couple of days is
when we need peace, when we need comfort, when we need a place to put rage, when we need a place to put pain. Music and books have been our escape. Like, that is what they're trying to take from us right now.
We're failing as parents if we're not trying to make the world a better place for her.
It's just so plainly on its surface wrong, and that's why it needs $900 billion of marketing to survive. Something has to rise from these ashes. It has to be driven by the people, by music makers, by listeners. Because there are just too many people that we've already discovered who won't live like this. I'm telling you right now, everyone who matters in like a taste perspective, not people who can be bought with marketing, but the big mass majority in between fucking hate this, and we need a place that has no AI ever, none whatsoever, ever, no doubt in my mind, I am listening to humans ever. Now maybe they're so powerful that we have to do this in fucking caves, in fucking living rooms.
I'm constantly plagued by the question of why am I making art in a world that feels like there's so many other things that I should be focusing my attention on right now. But this is our way of trying to resist these systems.
What's going to fill in that space is AI generated art if we step out.
Exactly. We have to take up space. It's encouraging to know that there are people out there who really do want to hear real music made by real people. If you're anything like...
So, what I would say to those guys, fair play to them, they're doing God's work, there's no doubt about it, and the rest of us are, we all have to get involved in this fight whether we want to or not, and we can do it by either as these guys are doing. They're continuing to make and produce on these platforms. But that, to me, I don't know about that. I don't know how we do this, but there seems to this far and no further. So I'm going to read you something in a moment that I put out the other night. I think, for me, this started. Now, you could go back to the electronic drum machine, you could go back to the electric guitar amp, people would say that. But I don't think that's quite true. Because when those things came in, what they did was open up new spaces. They opened up a new area of creativity. Electric guitar amp comes in, and you end up, within a short time, you end up with rock and roll and then the Beatles and punk and Pink Floyd and everything, all that. And the electronic drum machine, etc., and the synthesizer, the same. They were tools that were used to create, and they created new things. AI isn't doing that. AI is stealing. This is what they're talking about. And I'm going to show you a little thing in a second where Dr. Dre is very, very, very disappointed in his statement and his opinion with regards to this, because I see this as being a zero-sum game for true creatives and true artists, musicians, of which he obviously is one. And if you can't see the threat, I feel it's a bit like this. For people like me who are socialists and communists, we've saw over the course of our lives, I wasn't indoctrinated into socialism and communism. I didn't study it. I just saw certain things happening, and then I found myself in a position, and then 10 years later I found out, oh, that's the communist, that's a socialist position, that's a Marxian position on the world, on colonialism and on economics and the working and the class structure and all this. I found myself in that position, and then after the fact, I discovered through my own self-education that there was a name for it, and it was this. Well, I see it's a bit like that at the minute. I can see where this is going to go. This is fucked. We're fucked if we don't stop this, or at least deny it in some way. Because this is just a giant, enormous plagiarism engine, and it can't be stopped. Now, I'll show you in a second again some of the things that are happening around the world, but it's too little and it's too slow. All our music has already been scraped. I'll show you here. So here's the Atlantic AI watchdog, and there's the Bonnevilles. I typed the Bonnevilles in earlier. I'll type it in, the Bonnevilles, and there we go. It shows you 69 results from 2 data sets. 48 songs were scraped by this engine. There they are there. And 21 for this engine. Now, that's just the ones that they have. I'm assuming that there might be more engines, these AI engines. They call them engines, data sets. It's just a terrible way of saying theft and plagiarism. And what can I do about that? I can't do anything about it. There's nothing I can do. Now, I'm not sitting here. I know that we stand on the shoulders of giants. I didn't wake up in the morning and just decide to make the Bonnevilles music and any other music without no input from everybody else. But that's a part of the human process. We evolve and we contribute and we add to. This isn't adding to fuck all. This is taking. It's only taking. Only taking. Now, one of the things that's gone. I'll show you the Dr. Dre statement here. So, Dr. Dre has words for those who oppose the use of AI in music. You sound like the person that would have come out against the drum machine when it came out, or synthesizers. AI companies have the worst public relations in the world. That's how he excuses them, right? Yeah, because that's the fucking problem. It seems the producer views it as just another piece of gear. I had a discussion with a few people a few days ago. They were against AI, and I'm like, okay, you sound like the person that would have come out against a drum machine when it came out, or synthesizers, right? It's a new tool for creativity. Some people are afraid of learning new things. I embrace it, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen with this. So, the problem that I have with that statement is that Dre undoubtedly will use these tools in a creative way, or maybe he would have. Don't know if he's going to going forward. Don't know what he's doing with it, but we'll see. But a lot of people won't. A lot of people will use this to shortcut to the paycheck. So, one of the examples is a lot of music that's made by people, by musicians like me, which I have done in the past, is for advertisements. I've made music for whiskey brands and things like that. Specific. I've sat in my studio over COVID, by the way, and I earned some money when I was making no money, and I made some music for Dead Rabbit, that whiskey brand. And I was really, really glad to be able to do it. If that had happened today, I wouldn't have had that income, and I was making little, zero, no money. I ended up having to get a driving job. Nothing wrong with that, but I was a musician and I didn't want to be a driver, so, I wouldn't have had that. And that's the way, so lots of people's incomes have now been affected that way. If you need some incidental music for a particular thing, you can just type into these engines, do me a 30-second song in the style of the Bonnevilles for my whiskey brand, and it would do it, because it's got all the data it needs to be able to do that. And I'm losing out my money that I use to fucking buy food with and pay rent with. The other thing as well, people are like the thing that we did with the DJ here in Ireland, where we did that Old Town project, which is still ongoing. That's what they're doing with it. Dr. Dre might go and use it as a creative tool, but most people aren't going to do that. Most people are going to use it as a fucking shortcut to creating something that they have absolutely no ability to be able to do. If they wanted to be a musician that badly, they would have to do what the rest of us had to do. Study and obsess for years and years and years. Most people aren't going to do what Dr. Dre implies that he's going to do. And Timbaland, he's another one that said something about he's using AI for music. But the thing is, it's actually turning people off. People don't like it. People don't want it. And it's great to see. But for the most of us who are so fucking busy, and you put your music on Spotify or whatever you use, and some AI stuff will come up, and unless you actively, as the girl said in the video, it's not even labelled AI. Unless you actively cancel that stuff and remove it from your playlists and complain about it and do whatever it is you can to reject it, you're not going to be able to avoid it, because it is fucking everywhere. I use Cobas, and I haven't seen it on there because I haven't looked for it, because my playlists are curated by me and only me, so I don't get to see it. But it is everywhere, and it is a problem. And this, some people are afraid of learning new things. I'm embracing it. That's just a fuck you. It's like you don't know what the problem is. You can't see what the problem is here. You don't understand what the problem is here. Now, and then there's another one here. What have I done with it? I'll find it in a second. But here's one. So this is a part of The other one was, see if I can find it for you. Oh, I've freaking deleted it. Natasha Lyonne, the actress. I had a video. I was going to play it for you, but it's about 10 minutes. I'm not going to bother. She's come out and she's making AI. She's using AI to help her make in her directorial debut. Now, as it turned out, the AI that she's using is apparently an ethical one, where everyone that had their music or art or film or whatever it is that she's using it for, used to train this data set, they were remunerated and they gave the permission to do it. So that's what's being called ethical AI. But I don't think it's ethical. I don't think the actual concept is ethical. I don't think you can have ethical AI. I think that's a misnomer. So one of the things that we can do is to deny it. And here's the first of these. There's stuff happening in the Republic of Ireland as well. So this is reported on RTE. AI-generated music is banned from Australian charts. Music made by artificial intelligence will be banned from Australia's top charts under new guidelines aimed at protecting the human nature of artistry, an industry body said today. Under new rules in force from Friday, music must be substantially human-made in order to be eligible for the charts, the Australian Recording Industry Association has said. Bravo. Wholly AI-generated tracks will not be eligible. It is said that the charts will exclude songs that use AI to generate the entirety or the primary portion of the creative elements, but recordings that use generative AI in a supporting role remain eligible. So that's, again, they're going to have to figure out what that means. Does that mean 20%, 15%, 10%? And who's going to monitor this? Somebody's going to have to keep an eye on this. But it's a move. It's something, right? The move follows growing concern in the music industry over a surge in AI-generated music hitting the airwaves. In July, a cover of Madonna's Like a Prayer soared to the top of the charts in Australia, but drew scrutiny after it was revealed to have used AI-generated vocals and drums. By the way, what's the two hardest things to record? Vocals and drums. That's it. They're the two hardest things to record. And someone has went into their studio, used AI, created the two hardest things, used it to make the two hardest things, and then just played guitars and pianos over the top. Streaming giant Spotify has also said it will launch a new AI persona badge, clearly identifying content producers that are AI generated and not real people. More than 1/3 of new uploads to Apple Music are entirely created with AI, a platform executive told Billboard this year. 1/3 of all uploads to Apple Music. That month, several major music industry organisations unveiled a labelling system for content created with generative AI that they would like to see widely adopted. These changes reflect our intent to remain dynamic and promote the human nature of artistry in what is, to say the least, a rapidly developing space. So that's a good thing, and they're not wrong. It's moving that fast. It's fucking. If you'd have told me this was the position we were going to be in 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have thought it was possible. But here we are. Now the AI tunes that I've heard, not too many to be fair, like literally a handful. They all sound like shit. And one of the reasons that they sound bad, I did a bit of digging into this with a guy called, watched a few videos from a guy called Ben Jordan, BENNJORDAN. He's brilliant. He's really up on his tack, a musician, studio guy, American fella. He goes on to Rick Beato from time to time, or he's been on Rick. I think he was on Rick Beato a few weeks ago. Maybe that's where I saw it. But he said one of the reasons that it all sounds like shit. It all sounds like, I don't know if you know this, but it all sounds over compressed. Compression is the thing that we use. This is a compressor here. This is my compressor in my studio. Right, I just plugged it out there. This is a 1176 classic compressor, and what it does is when you see the music waveforms and they go up and they go down, these peaks and then these valleys, it sort of squishes them a bit, and it just means that whenever you have a busy track, So you've got drums, guitar, bass, vocals, backing vocals, percussion, some shakers going on, things like that. All that can get lost, but if you use your compressor judiciously, you can give everything a bit of space to live. And it's just a part of a studio. It's a studio tool that gets used, right? Whenever you listen to stuff on Spotify, etc., because it's been streamed, they use their own sort of algorithm to squish it to try and make it sound like it's not squished too much. But it doesn't really work because I can hear it. A musician can hear it. Studio people can hear it. That's another reason why I use Qobuz, because you can stream in like high definition and it sounds beautiful. But whenever the data sets are scraping all this MP3 and lower quality stuff off of these streaming services, that's what it's training on, that's what it's learning. So then whenever you go to Suno and say, can you make me a song in the style of this and do that and do the other, it'll make it, but it also makes it sound like it's been trained, what it's been trained on. You know what I mean? Now that's not exclusive, but that's a part of it, and it's a part of the telltale signatures that AI music has. It all sounds like crap, and I can hear it a mile away. Now, I was touching upon a thing earlier on with talking with Dr. Dre, where I felt like I can see into the future with this, and I said it feels a bit like when I was going through my understanding of economics and colonialism and the working class struggle and all the rest of it. I was a socialist before I ever discovered that I was a socialist. I didn't know the word because I don't have any formal education. But it just so happened that there was this thing that happened that I happened to go, oh, I think I'm one of these guys. And I feel a bit like that with this. I don't know what the word is, but there was a word from the past. It's called Luddite. And I'll explain to you why that's not a bad word in a second. But I think we're going to go down that we can't allow this behemoth to continue on unrestricted in the way that it seems to want to go. We can't. We're fucked if we do. So what do I do? So what do we do? What do you do? So you as a consumer of music, you must reject this. If you see posters with AI content outside businesses and shops, you must not use them and tell them. It's all we've got. It's not a boycott. It's just that, guy, don't be doing that. Just write it up with a marker yourself. You don't need this. And much like AI music sounds like shit, those posters look like shit. So, the Luddites. Who were the Luddites? So here's a quick little synopsis for you. You've probably used this word as an insult your entire life. Luddite. Someone afraid of technology, against progress, or stuck in the past. That's not what it means. The real Luddites were the most skilled textile workers in England. 7 years trained, every cut precise, every cloth perfect. Then the factory owners replaced them with children operating machines that produced inferior goods. This is a part of the Industrial Revolution. Wages were halved and halved again. They petitioned Parliament, nothing. They couldn't vote, couldn't strike. Unions were illegal. So they smashed the machines. Not all the machines, only the ones replacing the skilled men with child labour. They called themselves Luddites, followers of General Ned Ludd, a leader who lived in Sherwood Forest. Same address as Robin Hood. Except Ned Ludd didn't exist, they invented him. A phantom general to lead an army of starving craftsmen. The government sent 12,000 soldiers against them, more than Wellington took to fight Napoleon in 1808. think about that? You think you're not in a class war? You think we've not always been in a class war? George Miller, 22 years of old, led the Yorkshire Luddites, 6 foot tall, 7 years trained as a cropper. 17 men were hanged at York, 25 transported to Australia, 57 children left without fathers for smashing a machine. The man who betrayed them was promised £2,000 and they never paid him. He died like a beggar in London. The word Luddite became an insult, written by the people who won. The next time someone calls you a Luddite, remember what it actually means. This time the machines work for us. Help us break the version of history that they wrote. Okay, so what do we do? What is our response? What do we do that Dre would call me a Luddite? Well, this is all I can do. I wrote this the other day. Why is there a picture of Dolly Parton as Jesus on my thing from James Legge? That's class. I love that. Sorry, if you're listening to this, you will not know what I'm talking about, so go and watch the video. But anyway, I'll scroll to my Bonneville's Facebook page. So here we go. I hate even having to use Facebook, but it's the only game in town. So I put this statement out the other day. Any venues, bookers or agencies that book the Bonnevilles do not have permission to use our image, name or music in any AI promotional materials, videos, posters, etc. Excuse me. We will go so far as cancelling our scheduled appearance if our request isn't respected. We know that AI is a handy tool for busy, time-crushed venues, and we acknowledge that, but for us it's a last straw, a line in the sand, this far and no further. Our music has been stolen, we can show you, as I just have, right? By this unimaginable plagiarism Goliath, and our only way of fighting back is to deny its power over us in any way we can. If you need us to make a poster, do a video or create some assets for our event with you, please ask. But if AI is involved in our gig, we will go so far as cancelling. With respect, Andy and Chris, the Bonnevilles. And just on that, I just made this little poster for our upcoming gigs. As I showed you at the start, it was in the video at the start, and I left a couple, and then I went in when I was getting my dinner, and Ted fixed it up. This thing took about 3 minutes. As you can tell, it's just a photograph of me and Chris and the name of the gigs on the poster. You're not saving that much time. Plus, it looks like shit. Everybody hates it. Everybody seems to hate it. And, by the way, just on that, we do not get any traction on Facebook. We put stuff on Facebook. We used to. It was the only game in town. Right at the very beginning, you put up a post and you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, 700 or 1,000 or 2,000 likes and shares and all that. Those days, the algorithm doesn't allow that shit to happen anymore. But this post got 494 likes so far, 39 comments, all positive, by the way, and 20 shares. That is by far the biggest performing post we put on Facebook in an absolute age. And it's about AI. And it's just words, no pictures, no AI slop, just pictures, or just words. My words that I typed out on my phone when I was sitting in the Woodville on Sunday evening, by the way. So, this, for me, Dre says this started, he says we would have said this about synths and drum machines and all the rest of it. For me, this started with auto-tune. That was the one for me. That was the one that I did not like. That was the one where I went, this is a fucking problem. And then auto-tune became a thing. It's so fast and effective now, it's being used live on stage. And even people that can sing are using it. Again, something that I don't listen to, but I happened upon this, and it was a couple of years ago, and I couldn't help but notice it was Michael Bublé, who can sing, a great, wonderful voice. He's got that Frank Sinatra thing going on, that Dean Martin thing. He does not need fucking autotune, and he had some single out, and it was just auto-tune to death. I couldn't believe it. I just was shocked. But now it's so fast you can actually use it live on stage. So for me, that was the start of it. That was when I think back, and I remember being shocked at the time that people would use it, and I thought it would just be used for awful pop stars and, you know, wee girl bands that can't sing, so they're going to use it to tidy their vocals up, which I suppose being whatever, so that didn't affect me, but you know, it expanded and expanded and expanded, and it says it's a studio tool. Then the other day, and I wish I'd have saved this video, but I didn't. Some Travis Barker, who is from, let me see if I can find this real quick. Was it? There we go. Yes, so there we go. I'm glad I found that. That's interesting now. So Travis Barker, who is, what is it? Travis Barker, who is, what does he want? Blink-182. So he was on a podcast the other day. So this is what I saw. Barker made it clear he's not a fan of AI or hyper-polished, overproduced, computer-generated tracks. New studio rules. His current recording guidelines prohibit auto-tune, limit digital editing to little or none, and ban the use of drum samples. To focus on a raw sound, he is intentionally leaning into real, imperfect human performances and organic drum sounds, hoping for raw bands as a digital production becomes more sanitized. Barker hopes the industry sees a rise in loud, dirty, dangerous live bands. And that's, I couldn't agree more. And I think that this is the answer. This is our response. It's all we can do. Deny AI where and when we can. Don't allow venues, promoters, bookers or agencies to use our images, our copyrighted materials, our image on any AI generated content, even to promote our own gigs. And we need to go back to recording properly. Now, we do, the Bonneville's, all our stuff, we record, everyone's all recorded live. I will add a vocal on separately. Drums and guitars all recorded live. Always has been. And we don't use samples in any way, shape or form that I'm aware of. I don't want to hang myself, but be pretty sure. No. But I think that's where we have to go. We have to go back. We have to go back to go forward. And I it's the only good thing I can pull out of this. It's the only thing where I can say this is a good thing. This is the potential to do something good. And I really, really hope, as much as the young ones are living in, looking at dystopia, more so than me, I think they're going to lead the way with this. I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to see all this AI pish and they're going, I want nothing to do with this. It's awful. And it may create a 2, 3, 4 lane highway. Different people go down it, and we may culturally become more divided with less shared culture, and that could happen, sadly. But we can't continue as we are. We just can't. Anyway, so there we go. So that's the pod. We're done. Let me just finish this up. There we go. So, upcoming gigs. There's the gig list. Fajo's this Saturday night in Lurgan. Next Friday in Belfast for that Bad Shirt Friday charity show. The Marine Bar in Whitehead on the 20th of September. I'm doing a solo one supporting Tabo with Jack Keown here in Lurgan at the house. We're supporting the Darts in Dublin on the 25th of October. and supporting Ricky Warwick in Dolan's in Limerick and the Grand Social in Dublin on the 5th and 6th of November, respectively. So that's it. There we go. No way I was using anything that you're hearing or seeing from me. It's all real. It's all real, baby. So, there we go. Like, share, subscribe. Head over to Patreon. You can listen to all this stuff over there. Or you can go to YouTube. If you do that, I've got a YouTube page. I upload all these to YouTube too. So, yeah. We're done. Let's go. Bye.